Since we're going down memory lane, I think you asked a pretty good question on Burbank today, talking about how people got into Pokemon, like what it was that first drawed you into playing Pokemon or have an interest in Pokemon.
Yeah, and this is going off of a fairly popular thread on Verbank about what was your first card? What was your first exposure to the card game? So I just wanted to know what people's first exposure to Pokemon in general was, and I got a pretty wide range of answers. I mean, I expected a lot of people to say just the cartoon or just the game, or but a surprising amount of people seem to have been exposed to Pokemon through the cards.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, it's kind of understandable if you think about it. A lot of people who were old enough to be parents at that point grew up when baseball cards were collecting 80s, in the early to late 80s. So, oh, well, my kids want to get into collecting cards too. Well, I'll buy them some cards. They want these little cards with the Pokemans on them. Sure. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I was really intrigued by some of the stories, like, oh, well, before I left for school every day, Pokemon would come on the TV, and that would be how I'd watch it. Or so many people said, my friends exposed me to it. I mean, my mom bought me Pokemon Red in hopes that it would help me make friends. And look at me now.
It worked.
Yep, I
I
got you.
finally. Now, if we could only get this darn Game Link cable to work.
Yeah, I tried putting the Game Link cable in the 3DS. It didn't work.
So was that? Did you have an interest in Pokemon before your mom bought that game for you?
Not to my recollection. And my mom just bought it for me because she was told that all the kids were into it.
Okay.
She thought it would help me find common ground with the other kids. And yeah, it worked.
Let's see. My exposure to Pokemon was a little bit different. Like I was quite a bit older than you. I'm in high school, but I'm still like a huge Nintendo fan. And one of the things that I got every year was I'd save up enough money to get my Nintendo Power subscription renewed. And before Pokemon started coming out, they were really building up to it big time. I guess they weren't sure if it was going to work with American audiences. The whole aspect of collecting monsters and trading them and things like that. So they started out by putting little things in the issue about this game called Pokemon is coming to America. It's really big in Japan. There's even a card game like Magic the Gathering. And at the time I played Magic, so I was like, oh, that's pretty interesting, I guess. And then uh, just like the next issue after that, they put these like little tiny uh, pocket-sized strategy guide comic books inside them. They probably had like 20 pages in them, and they'd have like a little comic book part in the front of it explaining the what's happening with, uh, basically Ash and Gary, Red and Blue, and you had that, and then behind that, it actually had like the strategy guide of like a certain part of the game mapped out for you. And I decided after reading the first thing the month before that I would buy this game when it came out because it sounded really cool that you have to have both games in order to get all the Pokemon and things like that. So I was just like, I'm not going to read the strategy guide. I'll check out all the pictures and stuff they've got in here, but I'm going to make sure I not read the strategy guides. So they done that like 5-6 issues in a row. So you basically had the entire game mapped out for you if you wanted to see it. But it had this really cool comic strip too. And then the game finally came out. Had to mow a lot of grass to make sure that I could cover the cost of buying the Game Boy Color, which you didn't need. You could play it on the regular Game Boy, but wanted the Game Boy Color and the copy of that game. So ended up buying that, playing it. I took it to school. I had one other friend that I talked into getting Blue, and we traded and stuff. And then not soon after that game came out, the anime came out, and then kids were going crazy and talking about it. Was at that point I was like, I probably shouldn't let everybody in high school know I like Pokemon, which sounds kind of ridiculous today, but it's not really the kind of thing you wanted at high school. I mean, high school is like the worst time of your life anyway.
I mean, I was a super closeted Pokemon player in high school too. I actually got out of Pokemon for a period of time in early high school. Just walking around Target one day, I saw that Pokemon Diamond was a thing. Diamond and Pearl were a thing, and I remembered my friends and I from middle school getting so hyped up about this game because this was back before worldwide releases. You know, you'd see the stuff in Japan first, and then they'd come out in English. And I remembered my friends getting so hyped up about that game, and I asked my mom to buy it for me. I already had the Nintendo DS, and for some dumb reason, she bought it for me. But I actually have a funny story involving this because mom's like, okay, I'll buy you the game and I'll buy you a strategy guide. And they had multiple strategy guides there. Well, I picked the one that had the Pokedex in it because I thought, I flipped open in the first page. I just flipped open to some random part of the book to see like if this was one for just a pregame, just a postgame, whatever. I saw it was for Victory Road. I'm like, I saw this page was for Victory Road. Victory Road's in every Pokemon game, right? So I'm like, oh, well, this has to be the guide for the regular game. Turns out it wasn't. It was the guide for the post game only and the Pokedex. And the funny thing is, this is what led me to discover Poketubing. It's what led me to discover that people make YouTube videos about Pokemon. And Maryland's Pokemon Diamond walkthrough was how I made it through Diamond and Pearl.
It's pretty awesome. You still have your books?
I do still have them.
That's something I really wish I'd held on to. I don't have my Nintendo Power Collection anymore. Just if anybody can hold on to your stuff, guys, do it because you're really going to want this stuff later in life. Like when it comes like down to should I sell stuff or not, think long and hard about it because I mean I've sold off my comic collection and a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm never probably going to put back together again that I really wish I had. So, and I really wish I had those Nintendo Powers because those were some good times.